the Cowboys have a massive problem right now that nobody outside the building is really paying attention to, and it could absolutely derail this entire defensive turnaround before the season even starts. I'm talking about the green dot and who's going to wear it on their helmet, because if you watched this defense last year, you saw the chaos and the confusion and guys lined up wrong week after week, and if Dallas doesn't get this right, we're going to see the exact same mess all over again. Before we break this down, hit that subscribe button right now, because I'm bringing you Cowboys breakdowns every single day the moment news drops, and my subscriber count is way too low for the amount of work we're putting in here, so do me a favor, smash that button, and let's get into this, because the green dot situation is way more complicated than you think, and the crazy part is Schottenheimer already has his favorite, but he's not telling anybody who it is yet. So let's start with the basics, because not everybody knows what we're even talking about when we say green dot. You see that little green sticker on one defender's helmet every game. That's not just for show. That helmet has a speaker built into it, and it connects directly to the defensive coordinator up in the booth or on the sideline, so he can relay the play call straight into that player's ear. The offense gets to do this with the quarterback, obviously, but the defense only gets one guy, and that one guy has 15 seconds to hear the call and then communicate it to all 10 other defenders before the headset cuts off. After that, it's on him to make all the adjustments at the line, read the offense, check into the right coverage, make sure everybody's lined up correctly, and basically be the quarterback of the defense. If you don't have the right guy wearing that dot, you're cooked. You're going to have blown assignments, missed tackles, guys running into each other, and offenses picking you apart because nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing. And here's what nobody is talking about. The Cowboys were a complete disaster at this last year under Dan Quinn's system, and if they don't fix it under Fangio's scheme, it's going to be even worse, because Fangio's defense relies heavily on communication between three specific positions, and we'll get to that in a minute. Brian Schottenheimer was asked about this recently, and he didn't give us a straight answer, which honestly makes sense because they're still figuring it out. He said they're going to train a bunch of guys on the green dot and see who's comfortable with it and who can handle the responsibility, because not every great player can do this job. Some guys are just wired to be told where to go and then go make the play, and that's perfectly fine, but the green dot guy needs a different kind of football IQ. Shotty mentioned three names specifically, and those three are obviously the front runners, but he also said if we were playing a game this week, I couldn't even tell you who'd be wearing it. That's how wide open this competition is right now. He also admitted he has a personal favorite already, but he's keeping that to himself, which means he's either testing these guys in OTAs and minicamp, or he's waiting to see who steps up in training camp. The other thing Shotty said that stood out to me is they're going to have different packages with different guys wearing it depending on the situation and the personnel grouping, which makes sense, but also adds another layer of complexity, because now you're asking multiple dudes to learn this role and be ready to jump in at any moment. Now, before we get into the candidates, you need to understand who's not going to wear this thing. Your corners aren't green dot guys because they're too far outside and they can't communicate quickly enough with the other side of the field. Your defensive linemen aren't going to wear it either because their hands are in the dirt half the time and they're focused on beating the guy in front of them, not managing the entire defense. You need somebody in the middle of the field who can see left, right, forward, and backward, and who can instantly relay information to everyone. That's why this almost always goes to a linebacker or a safety, somebody who's centrally located and has a full view of the formation. And here's where it gets interesting for the Cowboys, because in Fangio's system, there's this triangle of communication that's absolutely critical to making everything work. It's the down safety, the green dot linebacker, and the nickel corner, and those three guys have to be in perfect sync or the whole thing falls apart. Dallas already has two of those spots locked down with really high IQ players, but if the green dot guy isn't on the same page, it's not going to matter. That's why I'm way more concerned about this than I normally would be, because we saw what happened last year when the communication wasn't right, and I don't want to see that again. Let me ask you this. How concerned are you about the green dot situation on a scale of 1 to 10? Drop your number in the comments, because I want to know if I'm overreacting or if you're just as worried as I am. For me, I'm sitting at like a 7 right now, because I trust Fangio and I trust Schottenheimer to figure it out, but I also know how important this is and how badly it can go wrong if they pick the wrong guy. So let's run through the candidates, and I'm going to start with the long shots and work my way up to the guys who are probably going to end up with the job. First up is Curtis Robinson, and I'm only mentioning him because he actually wore the green dot for the 49ers last year. Now, that was only because Fred Warner went down, and then their backup linebacker also got hurt, so they had to throw Robinson into the fire, but he did handle it, and that counts for something. The problem is Robinson is the third-string middle linebacker on this roster, and there's a very real chance he doesn't even make the final 53. So betting on him to be your green dot guy is probably not realistic. He's more of an emergency option if everything goes sideways. Next, I want to talk about Jaylon Barr, who I actually think is going to have a solid role on this defense, but probably not as the green dot guy, at least not right away. Barr is more of a weak side linebacker, and the Cowboys would prefer to have the green dot on the Mike linebacker, the guy in the middle who's running the show. he's got the physical tools and the football IQ to eventually learn this role. And maybe by midseason, if somebody gets hurt or if he earns more trust, he could step into it. But asking him to do it week one when he's still learning the system and adjusting to the NFL after playing a hybrid role in college, that's probably too much. I think they'll train him on it just in case, but I don't see him being the primary guy unless something changes. And the crazy part is, even though Barr has all the talent in the world, he's never done green dot work before, so there's a learning curve there that you can't just skip over. Now let's talk about Caleb Downs, and this is where things get interesting because a lot of people are throwing his name out there as a sleeper candidate, and I get why. Downs has an insane football IQ for a rookie, and if there's any first-year player who could handle this responsibility, it's probably him. The issue is he's never worn the green dot before, and even though he's mature beyond his years, you're still asking a 20-year-old kid to be the quarterback of your defense on day one, and that's a massive ask. Here's the thing, though. Downs is going to be a huge part of that communication triangle I mentioned earlier because he's the down safety in Fangio's system, and that position requires constant communication with the green dot guy and the nickel corner. So even if Downs isn't wearing the dot himself, he's going to be talking to whoever is on every single snap. My gut tells me they don't want to overload him right away, but if somebody goes down or if nobody else can handle it, Downs is absolutely capable of stepping up. Would you give a rookie the green dot duties, or is that too much too soon? Let me know what you think. All right, now we're getting into the top three guys, and these are the three names that Schottenheimer specifically mentioned when he was asked about this. So, these are the real contenders. I'm going to rank them in the order that I think makes the most sense, but honestly, all three of them have a legitimate shot. Coming in at number 3 is Jayron Kearse, and here's why he makes sense. Kearse is by far the most experienced player in this conversation, and it's not even close. I'm pretty sure if you add up all the defensive snaps that every other candidate on this list has played in the NFL, Kearse has played more than all of them combined. That's not an exaggeration. The dude has been a starting safety in this league for years, and he's seen every offense, every formation, every trick play you can imagine. Experience matters, especially when you're trying to communicate under pressure and manage 11 guys in real time. Kearse also reportedly got some green dot training when he was with the Cardinals during the offseason, so he's at least familiar with what the job entails, even if he didn't do it in games. The question is, do you want your safety wearing the dot, or do you want your linebacker wearing it? And historically, it's been more common to put it on the linebacker because they're closer to the line of scrimmage and they can adjust the front and the coverage at the same time. But Kearse is a veteran leader, and if they trust him to handle it, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being the guy. Number 2 on my list is DeMarvion Overshown, and honestly, if he stays healthy, I think this is the best case scenario for the Cowboys. Overshown is an absolute playmaker, and he's got the athleticism and the instincts to be a star in this league, but the question is, can he handle the mental load of being the green dot guy on top of everything else he's already doing? He didn't wear the green dot in college because the NCAA didn't allow it until recently, so he doesn't have any real experience with this. But if they had green dots at Texas when he was there, I guarantee you he would have been the one wearing it. The problem is Overshown has dealt with injuries, and that's a major concern when you're talking about the green dot, because if your guy goes down mid-game and nobody else is fully prepared to take over, you're in trouble. That's why they're going to train multiple guys on this, but still, you'd prefer to have your primary green dot guy available every single week. I think they're going to give Overshown a real shot at this in training camp, and if he can prove that he can handle the communication without it slowing him down or making him think too much, then he's going to be their guy. But here's what nobody is talking about. Sometimes the green dot responsibility actually hurts a player's performance because they're so focused on getting everybody lined up correctly that they can't just play fast and react. And that's the last thing you want with a dynamic athlete like Overshown. So it's a balancing act, and we'll see how it plays out. And finally, the guy I think is most likely to end up with the green dot is Eric Kendricks, the veteran linebacker they brought in from the 49ers this offseason. Kendricks wore the green dot during practice with San Francisco last year, but he didn't actually do it in games because Fred Warner was healthy and Warner was their guy. The fact that Kendricks was the backup option tells you he's capable of handling it, and the Cowboys obviously did their homework before they traded for him. And here's the kicker. The Cowboys have Nick Sorensen on staff now, who was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco last year, so he worked directly with Kendricks, and I guarantee you Dallas asked him, can Kendricks handle the green dot before they made that trade? If Sorensen said no, I don't think they would have brought him in because they knew going into this offseason that the green dot was going to be a major question mark. Kendricks also played more defensive snaps last year than Overshown has played in his entire NFL career, so the experience gap is huge. The downside is Kendricks is 32 years old, and he's more of a thumper than a coverage guy, so if you're in a passing situation and you need to get him off the field, can your green dot guy be a two-down player? That's a legitimate concern, and it's something they're going to have to figure out. But for now, Kendricks feels like the safest bet, and I think he's going to get the first crack at it when the season starts. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. What if none of these guys work out? The Cowboys are light on draft picks right now, so they can't just go trade for somebody unless they're willing to give up future assets, but there are still some veteran free agents sitting out there who have green dot experience and could step in if Dallas gets desperate. Bobby Wagner has been wearing the green dot for like a decade, and he's one of the smartest linebackers to ever play the game, but can he still cover? Can you have a green dot guy who's only on the field for rundowns? That's the question. Bobby Okereke is another name that's out there, and he's had a solid career with green dot responsibilities, but he had a down year last season, and I'm not sure he's an upgrade over what they already have. Matt Milano's available too, but he wasn't always the green dot guy in Buffalo, so I don't know if he's the right fit. And then there's someone like Jordan Brooks who's done it before, but even when he was in Seattle and Miami, there were other guys who wore it more often than he did. My guess is the Cowboys are going to roll with what they have and see how it shakes out in training camp. And if they really feel like they have a problem, they can always make a move before the season starts. But I don't think they're going to panic, and I don't think they're going to bring in a veteran just for the sake of having a proven green dot guy, because that could mess up the chemistry they're trying to build. Here's the bottom line. The green dot is way more important than most fans realize, and the Cowboys cannot afford to screw this up. We saw what happened last year when the communication was a mess and guys were constantly out of position, and if that continues in 2025, this defense is going to get torched no matter how talented the players are. I think Eric Kendricks is the most logical choice right now because of his experience and his familiarity with Fangio's system through the Niners connection, but I wouldn't sleep on DeMarvion Overshown if he proves he can handle it without overthinking. Caleb Downs is the wild card, and if he ends up being the guy, it'll tell you just how special the coaching staff thinks he is. Jayron Kearse is the veteran safety option, and Jaylon Barr and Curtis Robinson are the emergency backups if everything falls apart. What I love about Schottenheimer's approach is that they're not just handing this to one guy and hoping it works out. They're training multiple people, and they're going to let the competition play out, which is exactly what you want to see. And before you click off, make sure you're subscribed, because I'm dropping Cowboys content every single day, and I need your support to keep this going, so hit that button if you haven't already. So here's my question for you. Who do you think should get the green dot? Are you rolling with Kendricks because of the experience? Are you betting on Overshown because of the upside? Are you going with the Caleb Downs sleeper pick, or do you think they need to go sign somebody like Bobby Wagner just to be safe? Drop your answer in the comments and let's have a real conversation about this, because I want to know what Cowboys Nation is thinking. This is one of those decisions that might not seem like a big deal right now, but it could absolutely make or break the season. So let's get it right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.